It was a bright and sunny Saturday morning in our little town. The sun was shining high in the sky, making everything look happy and warm. This was the kind of day where kids liked to ride their bikes up and down the street. Neighbors would stand outside their houses, smiling and waving hello to each other. It felt like everyone was friends here. My son Timmy was outside too. He's only 12 years old, a small kid for his age, but he's got the biggest grin you've ever seen. When he smiles, it's like the whole street lights up with him. He was zooming around on his skateboard, flipping it in the air and laughing as he went. Most people in our neighborhood know Timmy. They love how full of energy he is, always moving, always happy. He's the kind of kid who makes you feel good just watching him. I was sitting on our front porch, sipping some lemonade and enjoying the nice day. The birds were chirping and a soft breeze was blowing through the trees. Everything seemed perfect. Timmy was having so much fun out there, his sneakers squeaking on the pavement as he skated back and forth. He'd wave at me every few minutes and I'd wave back, proud of my little guy. He's a good kid, never gets into trouble, always says please and thank you, and helps out when he can. Everyone around here likes him and I like that. It makes me feel like we've got a good home in this town. But then something changed. The happy feeling in the air started to fade, like when a cloud covers the sun. I heard the rumble of a truck coming down our quiet street. It wasn't a sound we usually hear around here. Most people walk or ride bikes on a day like this. I looked up, squinting my eyes against the bright light, and saw an old, beat-up truck rolling toward us. It was rusty and loud, with paint peeling off the sides. It didn't look like it belonged in our neighborhood. The truck stopped right in front of our house, parking crooked like the driver didn't care. Two men stepped out, slamming the doors behind them. They weren't friendly looking at all. They had on uniforms, dark shirts and pants with shiny badges pinned to their chests. The badges sparkled in the sunlight, catching my eye. They called themselves HOA security, whatever that meant. I'd never heard of an HOA around here. We don't have one. Our neighborhood is just a bunch of houses where people live and get along. No fancy rules, no big group telling us what to do. So who were these guys, and why did they look like they were up to no good? Timmy didn't notice them at first. He was too busy skating, his hair flopping in the wind as he jumped off the curb. He laughed loud, the sound bouncing off the houses. But then the taller man, the skinny one with a mean smirk, yelled at him. "Hey, kid," he shouted, his voice sharp like a bark. Timmy skidded to a stop, his skateboard wobbling under his feet. He looked up, surprised, his big grin fading a little. The other man, short and stocky with a loud voice, crossed his arms and stared at Timmy like he'd done something wrong. "What's going on?" Timmy asked, his voice small and confused. He wasn't used to grown-ups talking to him like that, especially not strangers. I stood up from my chair, my lemonade forgotten on the porch railing. Something didn't feel right. These guys weren't real cops, I could tell that much. Their uniforms looked cheap, like something you'd buy at a costume store. The badges were shiny, sure, but they didn't look official. Real cops have cars with lights on top, not rusty old trucks. Real cops don't just show up yelling at kids for no reason. My heart started beating faster. I didn't like the way they were looking at Timmy, like he was a bug they wanted to squash. He's just a kid, my kid, and he wasn't hurting anybody. Why were they here? What did they want? The tall man took a step closer to Timmy, his smirk growing bigger. You can't skateboard here, he said, pointing a long finger at the ground. It's against the rules. Timmy blinked, his head tilting to the side. What rules? He asked. He sounded so innocent, so lost. The short man laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. It was mean, loud, and made my stomach twist. Our rules, punk, he said. Now move it or we'll make you. Timmy's shoulders slumped, and he looked down at his skateboard. He didn't know what to say. He's not the kind of kid who fights back. He's too sweet for that. But I could see he was scared, and that made me mad. I stepped off the porch, my flip-flops slapping against the wood. Hey, I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. Leave him alone. The tall man barely glanced at me. He waved his hand like I was nothing, just some annoying fly buzzing around. Mind your business, lady, he snapped. His words stung, but I didn't back down. These guys didn't belong here. They didn't have the right to boss Timmy around. I could feel my hands curling into fists, but I stayed where I was. I didn't know what to do yet. Part of me wanted to run over and yank Timmy away, but another part of me was waiting to see what would happen next. Timmy tried to skate away, his little legs pushing hard against the pavement. He just wanted to get out of there, away from these mean strangers. But the short man moved fast. He grabbed Timmy's skateboard right out from under him and tossed it into the grass like it was trash. You're done here, he sneered, his voice dripping with nastiness. Timmy stumbled, catching himself before he fell. He stared at his skateboard lying in the dirt, his eyes wide and shiny. I could tell he was trying not to cry. That was it. My chest felt hot, like a fire was burning inside me. Nobody treats my son like that. Nobody. But before I could move, I heard something else, a creak slow and steady coming from behind me. I turned my head just a little and saw the front door of our house swing open. Out stepped my dad, Grandpa Joe. He's old, in his 60s, with gray hair that sticks up in funny places. He walks with a limp because of a bad knee from years ago. Most people look at him and think he's just a regular grandpa, quiet, maybe a little weak. Those two fake cops thought so too. They didn't know who they were dealing with. See, Grandpa Joe isn't just any old man. Back in the day, he was a boxer, a real tough guy who could punch harder than anyone. He's got hands like hammers and a heart that hates bullies more than anything. And right now, he was watching these two jerks pick on his grandson. Dad didn't say anything at first. He just stood there on the porch, his eyes squinting at the men. The tall one noticed him and laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. What's this? He said, nudging the short guy. Grandpa coming to save the day, the short man snickered, his arms still crossed. They thought it was funny. They thought Dad was nothing. Oh, they were so wrong. I could see the look in Dad's eyes, calm but hard, like a storm waiting to break. He started limping down the steps, one at a time, his cane tapping the wood. Timmy looked up at him, hope flickering in his face. I held my breath. These fake cops had no idea what was coming. The air felt thick now, like something big was about to happen. The sun was still shining, the birds were still chirping, but it didn't feel like a happy day anymore. Trouble had rolled into our little town, dressed in fake uniforms with shiny badges that didn't mean a thing. They thought they could push Timmy around, scare him, make him feel small. They thought they could get away with it, but they didn't know about Grandpa Joe. They didn't know about me. And they sure didn't know that this was the wrong family to mess with. So who were these guys, really? Why were they here ruining Timmy's day? I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing for sure. They were about to find out they picked the wrong street, the wrong kid, and the wrong grandpa. The day wasn't over, and this story was just getting started. The trouble started when these two men climbed out of their old, rusty truck. It was a beat-up thing, all scratched and dirty, with a loud engine that growled like an angry dog. They parked it right in front of our house, not even trying to line it up straight. The truck looked like it didn't belong on our quiet street, where everything is usually neat and friendly. When they stepped out, they didn't walk normal, they strutted like they thought they were the bosses of the whole neighborhood. Their boots hit the ground hard, thump thump, like they wanted everyone to notice them. One guy was tall and skinny, with long arms that dangled by his sides. He had a smirk on his face, a sneaky little grin that said he was up to no good. The other guy was short and stocky, built like a bulldog, with a big chest and a loud voice that barked orders at anyone who'd listen. They both wore dark uniforms with shiny badges pinned on, but something about them didn't feel right. The tall, skinny one looked straight at Timmy, my 12-year-old son, who was just skating on the sidewalk. Timmy was having fun, his skateboard wheels humming as he zipped back and forth. He's a small kid with messy brown hair and a smile that makes people happy. But that smile wasn't there anymore, not after the tall guy yelled at him. "Hey kid," he shouted, his voice cutting through the air like a whip. "No skateboarding here, you're breaking the rules." Timmy stopped fast, his sneakers screeching on the pavement. His skateboard wobbled and he almost fell, but he caught himself. He looked up at the man, his eyes big and confused. "What rules?" he asked, his voice so small it almost got lost in the breeze. Timmy didn't understand. He wasn't doing anything wrong, just playing outside like he always did. The short, stocky guy laughed then, but it wasn't a nice laugh. It was loud and mean, the kind of laugh that makes you feel bad inside. "Our rules, punk," he said, spitting the words out like they tasted nasty. "Move it or we'll make you." He took a step closer to Timmy, his boots stomping on the ground. The tall guy moved too, both of them getting nearer to my son. They were big, towering over him like giants, and Timmy looked so tiny next to them. His shoulders slumped down like all the happiness got sucked out of him. His smile was gone now, replaced by a scared little frown. He didn't know what to do. He's not a fighter, he's a good kid, always saying please and thank you, always helping out. He didn't deserve this. I was watching all of this from the porch where I'd been sitting with my lemonade. My stomach started twisting like someone was squeezing it tight. I didn't like what I saw. These guys weren't real cops, I could tell that right away. Their badges were shiny, sure, but they looked fake, like toys you'd find in a store. Real cops don't act like this. Real cops don't yell at kids for skating on a sunny day. Real cops have cars with flashing lights, not rusty trucks that sound like they're falling apart. These guys had attitudes that stank, like bullies who think they can push everyone around. And now they were picking on Timmy, my Timmy, who never hurt a fly. It made me mad, but it made me worried too. What did they want? Why were they here? The tall guy pointed at Timmy's skateboard, his smirk growing bigger. "You heard him," he said. "Get that thing out of here." Timmy clutched his skateboard tighter, holding it against his chest like a shield. "But I live here," he said, his voice shaking a little. "I'm just playing." The short guy snorted, like Timmy had said something funny. "Don't care where you live, kid," he snapped. "We're in charge now, move it." They stepped even closer, their shadows falling over Timmy. He looked so small, so lost, standing there with his skateboard hugged tight. I could see his hands trembling. He didn't know how to fight back, he's too nice for that. But these guys didn't care. They kept towering over him, acting like he was nothing, like he didn't matter. My heart was pounding now, thumping loud in my chest. I put my lemonade down on the porch railing and stood up, my flip-flops sticking to my feet. I couldn't just sit there and watch this. "Hey," I called out, trying to sound brave even though my voice wobbled a little. "Leave him alone." The tall guy barely looked at me. He waved his hand like I was some bug he could shoo away. "Mind your business, lady," he said, his voice sharp and rude. The short guy didn't even turn his head, he just kept staring at Timmy, his arms crossed and his face all scrunched up like he was mad at the world. They didn't care about me. They didn't care about Timmy. They just wanted to boss us around, and that made my blood feel hot. Timmy tried to step back, his sneakers scraping the sidewalk. He wanted to get away, I could tell. His eyes darted to me like he was hoping I'd fix this. I wanted to, I really did, but those men kept moving closer, not giving him any space. The tall one reached out, like he might grab Timmy's arm. I said move, he barked. Timmy flinched, ducking his head down. His shoulders slumped even more and I could see his lip quiver. He was scared, really scared, and it broke my heart. "He's just a kid, my little boy, and these big, mean guys were treating him like dirt." I took a step forward, my hands curling into fists. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I couldn't let this keep going. That's when I knew this wasn't going to end quietly. These fake cops, or whatever they were, weren't here to be nice. They weren't here to help. They were here to cause trouble, and they'd picked Timmy to pick on. Maybe they thought he was an easy target, a small kid who wouldn't fight back. Maybe they thought no one would stop them, but they were wrong. I could feel it in my bones. Something was coming, something big. I wasn't going to let them hurt my son, and I wasn't the only one watching. The air felt heavy now, like a storm was rolling in even though the sky was still blue. The birds weren't chirping as loud anymore, and the happy Saturday feeling was gone. Those two men kept standing there, acting like they owned everything, the street, the houses, even us. But they didn't. This was our home, our place, and Timmy had every right to skate here. They were the ones who didn't belong, with their fake badges and their mean words. I could see the neighbors peeking out their windows now, curtains moving just a little. They were watching too, wondering what was happening. Everyone could feel the tension, like a rubber band stretched too tight, ready to snap. I took another step off the porch, my flip-flops hitting the grass. "He's not bothering anyone," I said, louder this time. The tall guy finally looked at me, his smirk turning into a frown. "Stay out of it," he growled, pointing a finger at me. The short guy nodded, like they were a team against us. "Yeah, listen to him," he said. "This ain't your problem." But it was my problem. Timmy's my son, and no one gets to scare him like this. I could feel my face getting hot, my hands shaking. I wanted to yell, to run over and push them away. But they were big, and I wasn't sure I could stop them alone. Timmy looked at me again, his eyes wide and shiny like he might cry. "Mom," he said so quiet I almost didn't hear him. That one word hit me hard right in the chest. He needed me and I had to do something. But before I could, the tall guy laughed again, sharp and nasty. "Aw, gonna cry to mommy," he teased. The short guy joined in, chuckling like it was the funniest thing ever. They were ganging up on him, making him feel small and weak. And that's when I knew this wasn't just about skateboarding. This was about power. They wanted to feel big by making Timmy feel little. But they didn't know who they were messing with, not yet. The tension kept building, like a pot of water about to boil over. I could feel it in the air, in the way Timmy stood there frozen, and in the way those men kept smirking and barking. Something had to give, something had to happen, and it was going to happen soon. These fake cops thought they could walk all over us, but they were about to find out they made a big mistake. Timmy didn't deserve this, not one bit, and I wasn't going to let it slide. Neither was someone else, someone they didn't even see coming. The fight was just beginning. I couldn't stand it anymore. Those two mean guys were picking on Timmy, my sweet little boy, and it made me so mad. I shouted from the porch, "Leave him alone." My voice was loud, but it shook a little because I was scared and angry all at once. I wanted them to stop, to go away and leave us alone. But they didn't listen. The tall, skinny guy with the sneaky smirk didn't even look at me right. He just waved his hand like I was some annoying fly buzzing around his head. "Mind your business, lady," he snapped, his words sharp and rude. It hurt to hear that, like a little sting in my chest, but it made me madder too. I wasn't just some lady, I was Timmy's mom, and he needed me. Timmy didn't know what to do. He looked at me with big, worried eyes, then back at the men. He decided to try and get away. He pushed his skateboard with his foot, the wheels starting to roll fast on the sidewalk. He wanted to skate off, to escape those bullies and their mean words. But the short, stocky guy was too quick. He stepped right in Timmy's way, grabbed the skateboard with his big, rough hands, and yanked it out from under him. Timmy stumbled, his sneakers slipping as he tried to stay standing. The short guy didn't care. He just tossed the skateboard into the grass like it was a piece of junk. It landed with a thud, spinning a little before it stopped. "You're done here," he sneered, his voice all nasty and low. Timmy stared at his skateboard lying there in the dirt, his shoulders drooping even more. His face looked so sad, like he might cry, and it broke my heart. My blood felt hot, like it was boiling inside me. I was so angry I could feel it in my face, my cheeks turning red. I wanted to run over and push those guys away, to yell at them until they left, but I didn't move yet. My feet stayed stuck on the porch like they were glued there. I wasn't sure why I didn't go. Maybe I was scared they'd yell at me too, or maybe I was waiting for the right moment to do something big. Or maybe deep down I was waiting for someone else to step in, someone stronger, someone who could fix this mess. I didn't know what was coming, but I could feel something in the air, like a storm getting ready to hit. Then I heard it, a sound that made my heart jump. It was the creak of our front door, slow and loud, like it always does when someone opens it. I turned my head just a little and saw my dad, Grandpa Joe, step outside. He's old, in his 60s, with gray hair that sticks up funny sometimes. He walks with a limp because of an old injury to his knee. It happened a long time ago, and he uses a cane to help him get around. When most people see Grandpa Joe, they think he's just a regular old man. He's quiet, doesn't talk much, and looks a little weak with that limp. That's what those fake cops thought too. They didn't see him as a threat at all. They didn't know the real Grandpa Joe, the one I grew up hearing stories about. The tall guy noticed him first. He looked at Dad coming down the porch steps, one slow step at a time, tap tap with his cane. The guy chuckled, a sharp, mean laugh that made my stomach twist again. "What's this?" he said, nudging the short guy with his elbow. "Grandpa coming to save the day." He said it like it was a big joke, like Dad was nothing to worry about. The short guy grinned too, his arms still crossed over his big chest. They thought it was funny, hilarious, even that this old man with a limp was stepping out to face them. They had no idea who they were laughing at. They didn't know what I knew, what Timmy knew, what our whole family knew. See, Grandpa Joe isn't just any old man. He used to be a boxer, a real one, not just someone who punched a bag for fun. Back in the day when he was younger, he was tough as nails. His fists were so strong they could knock out a bull, or at least that's what he always told me when I was little. I believed him too, because I'd seen pictures of him from back then, standing in a ring, gloves on, sweat dripping down his face, and a big smile after he won a fight. He was a champ, a hero in our town, even if most people forgot about it now. But one thing never changed: he hates bullies, hates them with everything he's got. When he sees someone picking on a smaller person like these fake cops were doing to Timmy, it lights a fire in him. And that fire was starting to burn now. I could see it in the way his eyes narrowed, watching those men. Dad didn't say anything yet. He just kept coming down the steps, slow and steady, his cane tapping the wood. Tap, tap, tap. Each sound felt big, like it was counting down to something. Timmy looked up at him, and I saw a tiny spark of hope in his face. He knew Grandpa Joe too. He'd heard the stories, seen the old boxing gloves Dad keeps in a box in the garage. The fake cops didn't notice that spark. They were too busy laughing, too sure of themselves. They thought they were in charge, that they could scare us and walk away like kings. But they were wrong. Oh, they were so wrong. I stayed where I was, watching it all happen. My heart was beating fast, thump, 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 like a drum in my chest. The tall guy kept smirking, the short guy kept sneering, and Timmy stood there, small and quiet. But now Grandpa Joe was here, and that changed everything. Those men didn't know it yet, but they'd just made a big mistake. They thought he was harmless, just an old man with a limp. They didn't know about the boxer inside him, the one who could hit hard and fast, the one who wouldn't let anyone hurt his family. They didn't know what was coming, but I did. I could feel it building, like the air before a thunderstorm, heavy, quiet, and ready to explode. The fake cops kept their eyes on Timmy, not even bothering to watch Dad as he got closer. They were so sure they'd won already. The tall one waved his hand at me again, like I didn't matter, and the short one kicked at the grass where Timmy's skateboard lay. They were mean, rude, and full of themselves. But every step Grandpa Joe took, every tap of his cane, was bringing them closer to a surprise they'd never forget. I didn't know exactly what would happen next, but I knew it wouldn't be good for them. They'd pushed us too far, and now they were going to find out what happens when you mess with the wrong family. The fight wasn't over, it was just starting. Grandpa Joe was coming down the porch steps, slow and careful. His cane went tap 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 on the wood, and his limp made him look old and weak. But his eyes, they were locked on those two fake cops, sharp and steady, like he wasn't scared at all. He stopped at the bottom and stared at them, those two clowns who thought they were big shots. "You boys lost?" he asked. His voice was calm, but it had an edge, like a knife hiding behind a friendly smile. It wasn't loud or mean, it was quiet, but it made you listen. The short, stocky guy didn't like that. He puffed out his chest, making himself look bigger, like a tough guy in a movie. "We're in charge here, old man," he said, his voice all gruff and bossy. "Back off." Oh, that was a big mistake. He thought Grandpa Joe was just some old guy who'd shuffle away. He didn't know who he was talking to. Dad didn't move right away. He just stood there a few feet from them, looking them up and down. He tilted his head a little, like he was figuring them out. "Funny," he said, his voice still calm, "'cause I don't see no real badges, just a couple of fakes picking on a kid." His words hit hard, even though he didn't yell. He was calling them out, telling them he knew they weren't real cops, just bullies in cheap uniforms. The tall, skinny guy didn't like that one bit. His smirk turned into a frown, and he stepped forward fast, lunging at Dad like he'd push him away. He thought he could scare Grandpa Joe off with one shove, like Dad was nothing. Wrong move. In a flash, Dad moved faster than you'd think an old man could. He sidestepped, sliding to the side so the tall guy missed him. Then Dad grabbed the guy's arm, quick as lightning, and twisted it hard behind his back. The tall guy yelped, his face scrunching up in surprise and pain. He didn't expect that, not from an old man with a cane. The short guy's eyes got wide, like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He started to move, but he was too slow. Before he could do anything, Dad swung his other hand, a big, fast punch, bam, right into the short guy's jaw. It was loud, like a clap, and the short guy stumbled back, his arms flailing. His boots scraped the ground, and then he fell smack onto the pavement. He hit hard, landing on his side, and groaned like a hurt puppy. The tall guy tried to pull away, yanking his arm to get free, but Dad wasn't done. With one strong push, Dad slammed him down too, right next to his buddy. They were both on the ground now, sprawled out like ragdolls tossed in the dirt, moaning and rubbing their faces. Timmy's mouth dropped open, his jaw hanging low. He stared at Grandpa Joe, then at the fake cops, then back at Grandpa Joe. His eyes were huge, like he'd just seen a superhero fly out of a comic book. My jaw dropped too, I couldn't help it. I knew Dad used to be a boxer, tough and strong, but seeing it happen right there in front of me, it was wild. Those two bullies thought they were big and scary, but Grandpa Joe showed them up in seconds. They didn't know he was a fighter, a real one, and now they were down, looking silly and small. The big reveal was out. Dad wasn't just an old man. He was a hero, and those fake cops never saw it coming. After Grandpa Joe knocked those fake cops down, the whole neighborhood started to wake up. People peeked out their windows, pushing curtains aside to see what was going on. Some even stepped onto their front lawns, standing there with wide eyes, watching everything. The two men were still on the ground, groaning and rubbing their sore spots. Grandpa Joe stood over them, tall and strong even with his limp. He was breathing steady, not huffing or puffing, like he'd just finished an easy job, like taking out the trash. His gray hair glinted in the sun and his face was calm but tough. He looked down at the fake cops and growled, "Next time you wanna play cop, pick on someone your own size. Now get outta here." His voice was low and rumbly like thunder, and it made those guys freeze for a second. They didn't argue. They didn't try to act tough anymore. The tall, skinny one and the short, stocky one scrambled up fast, tripping over each other like scared little kids. Their faces were red and they looked embarrassed, humiliated even. They had bruises starting to show, one on the short guy's jaw and the tall guy holding his twisted arm. They didn't say a word, they just bolted to their rusty old truck as quick as they could. They jumped in, slamming the doors, and started the engine. The tires squealed loud, screeching on the pavement as they peeled away, driving off down the street. They left Timmy's skateboard lying in the grass, and they left their pride behind too. All that big talk and mean smirks were gone now. They were just two bullies who got beat. I ran off the porch and grabbed Timmy, pulling him into a big, tight hug. His little arms wrapped around me and I could feel him shaking a little from all the scariness. But then he looked up at me and that big grin of his was back, bigger than ever. His eyes sparkled and he cheered, "Grandpa's a superhero." His voice was loud and happy, bouncing off the houses. I laughed, squeezing him tighter, so glad he was okay. I looked over at Dad, who was brushing off his hands like he'd just finished a chore. He shrugged, his shoulders going up and down. "Nah," he said, his voice soft now, "just taught em a lesson." He didn't act like it was a big deal, but to us, it was huge. The neighbors started talking, their voices buzzing like bees. Some came over asking what happened, while others stayed on their lawns, whispering to each other. By the time we sat down for dinner that night, half the neighborhood knew the story. They were all talking about the old man with the limp who took down the fake HOA cops. People said things like, "Did you see that?" and "Who knew Grandpa Joe could do that?" It spread fast, like a wildfire, and it made us smile. Timmy kept giggling about it, telling the story over and over with big hand motions, like he was punching the air. Dad just ate his mashed potatoes, nodding a little, not saying much. Those fake cops, they never came back. Not the next day, not the next week, not ever. They didn't show their faces in our town again. Maybe they were too ashamed, or maybe they were scared of Grandpa Joe. Either way, justice was served. They thought they could push us around, scare Timmy, and act like they owned the place. But they learned the hard way, you don't mess with our family. Timmy got his skateboard back, his smile stayed, and the neighborhood felt safe again. Dad made sure of that, and we'd never forget it. Okay, so here's the big thing I want you to think about after this story. You never really know who's watching, ready to jump in and stand up when it matters most. That day when those fake cops were being mean to Timmy, it looked bad. Timmy was scared, I was mad, and it felt like no one could stop those bullies. But then Grandpa Joe stepped out.